Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Pickems episode, the final Pickems episode before the major playoffs, which I'm very excited to be attending. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, let's not waste too much time. Let's very briefly just take a quick glance at stage three. Spoiler: didn't make it again. Only got four right, so yeah, if you're looking for a masterclass in how to not do pick'ems, I have given you the masterclass. I mean, this has been diabolically bad. This has been really shit. Hopefully, look, got three right on stage one. You know, got two right in stage two, but then bounced back four right in stage three. So maybe it means that playoffs will be a little bit better. Who knows? Probably not. But I mean, admittedly, I do think this is slightly easier to predict in the sense that best of threes. But I do think it's harder because you have to predict the whole bracket, right? I can't just predict one, right? If I predict the quarterfinal, two quarterfinal games wrong, it could affect the finals games, right? Because those teams may not be there. So yeah, a bit interesting here for sure. These are the matches, of course. I kind of, for seeding purposes only, wanted Virtus Pro to win because I think it would have made for a much more interesting bracket where the level of the teams is kind of spread out a little bit better. But Pain won. I love Pain Gaming, but with them winning, it does kind of mean that the seeding is a little bit messed up here, unfortunately, in terms of how stacked one side of the bracket is. As you can probably tell already, Navi and Vitality, Spirit and Mouse being on one side of the bracket is pretty fucking insane compared to FaZe Clan, Mongols, Pain, and Furia. But if I had to look at the upside, it is that I believe this will mean that FaZe Clan has a fucking I don't want to call it like the golden road to the finals because they have some tough games. Like Furia is no joke. If Pain beats Furia, then that would be, obviously they've earned some fucking respect there. And Mongols is no joke. Mongols is a really good team. And I think some people are actually going to favorite them, especially in this quarterfinal match. So overall, the bracket is still not bad. A lot of the teams that are here are really fucking good teams, and like I'm actually very pleased with how things turned out. I don't know how many of you had listened to the previous videos, but I had constantly stressed that I really wanted the teams that I wanted to make it. And frankly, I can't really be too disappointed with this. We got a lot of the top teams, with maybe one or two exceptions. Really, I would just say one exception. You replace Pain Gaming with like Falcons, and like this bracket is absolutely sick. This is like exactly what you want. So, so I can't be too upset. But let's get right into it. Furia versus Pain. You can call it a Brazilian derby. It's a little different. I don't think these teams have actually played. Most of the time with these interregional matchups, you think, well, they're interregional, and so these teams play each other a lot, and so who really knows who's going to win, right? But I do think Furia, not only are they just the better team, but also I don't think that really applies here because I don't really think Pain has played Furia that much with this new roster and this new lineup. So I don't really think that really applies. I think Furia are the better team. I think they've been playing really good. They're an exciting roster actually. It's not something that I say very frequently about Furia, but I'm actually really excited about this team. I like the Molodoi especially is like super good. And it's nice to see Akindar find some form again, even though he stares way too fucking closely to his monitor for everyone's liking. But it is an exciting team, and hey, you get to see Fallen in the playoffs of a major. That's got to be pretty cool. K Serato as well, right? So it's just a really cool team. Yuri's been playing pretty good as well. So it's a really exciting team actually, which is not something again that I would say about Fury very often. So even though they made some controversial moves, it looks like it looks like they're in the right direction. And for Pain Gaming, it's great that they got here. They've been a borderline playoff team basically all season, and they have a really strong rifle core. I think NQZ as an opper has got a nice X factor to him. Big Azera is obviously an absolute beast of an IGL / fragger. So this team is really stacked, and I do think, look, if Pain Gaming is really hitting their form, they definitely can upset Furia here. I just am going to take Furia. I think they're the better team. Which leads into FaZe versus Mongols. FaZe Clan looking really good in Stage 3. They have looked consistently better with every game they play pretty much throughout the last couple of stages. Um, and they have Simple, and they have Kerrigan, and they have a Liege, so obviously I want them to win. Mongols, usually a fan favorite, probably not going to be a fan favorite in this game because of a Liege and FaZe. But the Mongols are a really, really good team. The disappointing part for Mongols is they haven't exactly looked super strong. They really, really struggled against G2. I don't think the calling was particularly great during that series from Blitz. And I do think they really struggle with consistency, which, yes, is something that FaZe struggles with as well. But I do think that the player quality on FaZe is just better. And I think that FaZe has just straight up looked better this event, than the Mongols have. And so while Mongols have had some moments where they look like they could beat anybody, they also have moments where they absolutely fall apart. And for that reason, I'm going to pick FaZe to beat the Mongols. But let's be real, it's really just bias. That's analysis, but let's just be real, it's bias, right? I obviously want FaZe to win. Like I said, at this point, fuck the Pickems. I'm just going to pick the teams that I want to win to win. And so that's what I'm going to do here, as my screen has decided to completely black screen for no reason. Moving on to the next game, and the other side of the bracket for that matter, is Na'Vi versus Vitality. Na'Vi have actually looked better, and I think it's mostly an individual thing, because I think the style of CS that they play, I don't think that's really changed all that much. I think they are a very tactical team, and yes, they do make more mistakes now than they did last year, but I do think that a big part of the reason why Na'Vi just hasn't performed to the degree that they used to is just straight up individuals not playing as well and losing confidence. I think when you're able to say you've won the most recent major and you're playing at the top of your game and you're getting a lot of praise, I think it's you have a lot of confidence in yourself, and so you can play better. And I think with Na'Vi bombing out of the last major and just kind of coming into this season a little flat, I just think that that confidence has wavered for sure. And I think this major they've really kind of just said fuck it, and they've started to play a little bit better individually, and I think that's helped them quite a bit. Unfortunately for them, Vitality is the best team in the world, even though they went 3-1, and even after losing that game really badly to Legacy, they've just straight up looked pretty dominant. They've had some bad halves, I would say, or some halves that didn't look as competitive as others, but I would say for the most part, Vitality pretty much cruised to 3-1. Didn't really have too many issues, and it's pretty hard to make an argument for Na'Vi to beat Vitality. I think if Na'Vi had been playing like a Furia or a Pain, maybe even like a FaZe Clan, you could potentially see an upset. But I think with them playing Vitality, there's just no chance. And that leaves us to Spirit versus Mouse. I think a lot of people would probably pick Mouse here. They've got a head-to-head record against Spirit that's very, very dominant at this point. And they've just been the more consistent, best team throughout the season. But I'm actually going to pick Spirit here. Partial bias, obviously, that I really like Donk and I really like Spirit, but look, and I do think Spirit have some serious firepower issues, and I think if they don't turn up the way that they have in this group stage, I think they're going to be in trouble, and Mouse can definitely beat them. But I haven't really been convinced by Mouse during this run. I mean, they were super close, both maps, to not even make it to playoffs versus Legacy. Really had to fight for it at the end. It didn't look good. In fact, I had pretty much counted them out of making playoffs, because of it. And they ended up pulling it together and making it through, but I don't really believe any of the talk that they have about we're feeling really confident and all this, because they said that before the Legacy series and they didn't look that good. Legacy kind of gave that away twice. So I'm just not super convinced by Mouse's form right now compared to Spirit. Spirit has looked really locked in, just really, really good. I do think there's some concerns that they were so dominant that they didn't have to play too many games, and so Spirit might be a little cold. So I think Mouse, if they really want to win this series, really needs to hit hard on the first map, probably. But one thing to note, too, about the previous time Spirit has played Mouse, it's not like Mouse has, destroyed Spirit. I do vividly remember some games where Spirit absolutely blew Mouse out of the water on one map and then just lose the other two in some semi-close fashion. So I think the head-to-head is maybe a little bit... it seems a bit misleading to me. I don't think Spirit is actually that much worse than Mouse or anything like that, and I think Spirit has been the better team for the most part. And also, again, you have Donk, who will consistently show up, and Shiro seems to play better in these kinds of moments as well. I really believe in those two guys, especially Donk. And when I look at Mouse, they're really, the normal players that are consistent on that team just haven't really been consistent this event. So I have a little bit more faith in Donk in particular, and Spirit to win that game. So this is going to be my semifinal games. We've got Furia versus FaZe Clan. I'm, again, biased, obviously. I'm going to take FaZe Clan, and I think they are the better team. I think if whoever wins the Mongols FaZe game is probably going to win that next match, or at least should be favored. I do think there's probably more choke ability if Mongols make it, just because that's just how Mongols roll. But I do think, either one of those teams should beat Furia, are better than Furia. Not saying there isn't a chance for Furia or Pain to win that. Really, it would be Furia to win that game. But because there is a chance, Furia's been playing pretty good, right? But I just don't think I don't think they've gotten enough time together and enough experience together to really hit the finals of the major. Which leads us to Vitality versus Spirit, and I'm going to take Vitality. As good as I think Spirit has played this event, I just don't think they're good enough from a firepower standpoint to beat Spirit. I just have too many questions about Spirit when it comes to their firepower, and I know that maybe sounds a bit hypocritical because I put them over Mouse, and Mouse is a team that has a lot of firepower. I think the difference is Mouse really hasn't shown that firepower this event at all. The players have been super inconsistent. They show glimpses of what they are, but just can't quite put it together. And if there's one thing that I can trust with Donk, it's that he's just going to be super consistent for the most part. He rarely has bad maps, and so I can trust that with Spirit, at least for Donk and usually Shiro as well. But when it comes to Vitality, just pick a player. It's just so difficult to beat this team because even if they're not beating you tactically, they can just outfrag you. Rops can have a 1v3 out of nowhere that looks easy. You know what I mean? This team is so stacked. I just don't think Spirit have enough firepower to beat them. And so I'm going to put Vitality to make it into the finals versus FaZe, where I'm going to set my bias aside, and I'm going to pick Vitality to win the major. I do think Vitality is the best team at this event. I thought that the whole time. I think that's pretty reasonable to expect. I think this is where Vitality, cements themselves as having an era. Frankly, they've had an era even before this major, but really cements it, caps it off with a win at the major. They don't have to worry about their streak anymore since they lost that best of one. I think that's been fairly liberating for them, and I think they're just going to be playing the best CS, the same level of CS that they've been playing all season. They're not going to be worried about losing any kind of record or anything like that. They're just going to be playing a little bit more liberated than maybe they were at the start of this event. And now that they've also lost that best of one, they know they can be beaten. They are mortal. And so I think that's going to refocus them into this next stage of the event. And as for FaZe Clan, I think it's been it's obviously a great run, but if I had had FaZe Clan where Na'Vi was, I wouldn't have even gotten them out of the quarterfinal. If I had had FaZe where Mouse or Spirit were, it would be pretty tempting to pick those teams over FaZe. I think FaZe has got a very easy bracket, or at least the easier side of the bracket, and I think that gives them the opportunity to make their third finals appearance in a row at a major, which is insane and probably has never been done before, I would imagine. I don't know, maybe Astralis did, but they obviously won. I don't know. Would be pretty insane to see a team make the finals 3 times in a row. And look, I don't want this result. I would prefer FaZe to win this, obviously, being a North American CS fan, and just loving FaZe in general. And it would be heartbreaking for me to see them get to another grand finals and lose. But also, what a fucking epic finals this would be, FaZe Clan versus Vitality. FaZe, again, made it to the 2 previous major finals, lost very close in both of them. Could have won either one of those, making it to a grand final against what might be one of the best teams of all time, looking to cement their legacy after, capping their season off with a major after being one of the most dominant teams, maybe the most dominant team in Counter-Strike history. I think it would just be an incredible final. I would love to watch it. Simple versus ZywOo once again would just be so sick. And I really hope that the bracket goes like this, because I would love to see even Donk versus ZywOo again. Man, these matchups would just be so cool. So I really hope this is how it goes. Maybe not the final. Admittedly, I'm kind of just picking logically what the best team I think is at the event to win the whole thing. But it would be a fucking sick event if this if up until the final, these were the matchups, right? I think that would be really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to this major. A lot of really good teams in this playoff stage, man. I know I'm writing off the Mongols, Mongols are really good. I know I'm writing off Maus, but Maus are a top 3 team in the world coming into this event. I know I'm writing off, maybe Pain to some extent, but like Pain have not really had an opportunity to show themselves at their full power, having to play with a coach as a stand-in a lot of times, and just not really being able to get their feet under them. And now they look like they finally have, so maybe they can pull off some upsets. Furia, ever since making these roster changes, have looked really, really good. Had a bad Dallas event, but they just came from Astana, which just ended like not even a week or not even a couple of days before Dallas. So, I think like these teams are really sick, and I can't complain. I'm writing off Na'Vi, but they did win the first CS2 major. We're the team of the year in 2024, right? They could certainly have a little bit of a resurgence here at the major. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of sick storylines. It's a shame that Falcons isn't here. It really is, but ultimately, man, like you can't ask for much more than this. This is about as with the shit format that we have. This is about as good as it's gonna get. And I can't be too upset about it. And I really hope that FaZe gives us a really good show, man. There's a lot of pressure on them now that they have the easier side of the bracket, I will admit. If they do lose in the quarters of the semis, people are going to be really bummed out for sure. If we get a Furia Vitality or Furia Spirit final, I do think people will be a bit bummed out by that. So there is a lot of pressure on FaZe in particular to make it all the way to the finals. Admittedly, if the Mongols make it, I think it's still really cool, obviously, for Asian CS, but it's probably not as the story. It's not the storyline people want. People are going to want FaZe to make it all the way and fight for the finals. Probably against a Vitality or a Spirit, right? So yeah, I just think it would be super, super cool, and I'm looking forward to this event. And these are going to be my Pickems. I'm going to lock these in, and yeah, super, super excited. Can't wait to go. It's finally sinking in that I'm going to the event, which is pretty surreal. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope the event turns out to be amazing, like everybody wants it to be. We don't get many events like this in North America, and so I'm really, really hoping that this turns out to be one of the best majors. Because I thought Shanghai was fantastic. I thought, I thought the first major in, what was it, Budapest or was it Stockholm? I can't remember. Or something like that, was also incredible, right? That Na'Vi final was unbelievable. Bit had a masterclass on map 3, obviously everyone remembers that. So I'm just really hoping that we continue this streak of like really insane majors, because at the end of CSGO the majors kind of sucked. There weren't really any exciting majors, probably up until like the Antwerp major with FaZe, right? That was probably the last like super insane awesome major in CS:GO. After that, the majors kind of were shit. So just really hoping that, just really hoping this is another really, really good major. And so yeah, with that, I think I'm gonna end my final Pickems video. So hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully you didn't take any of my advice, because my advice was just wrong on every single level. It wasn't even remotely close, was I? So maybe I should just stop doing these and never do them again. Not really good with all this. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. Hopefully you guys enjoy the playoffs. Hopefully it's a fucking sick playoffs, and we get to really enjoy some amazing Counter-Strike and just have a lot of fun. So yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and yeah, best of luck with your Pickems, and hope we have a good time at the major.